Lilian always carried a bright smile, even when she heard the whispers behind her back. She knew the other girls didn't like her, but she didn't understand why. She never did anything wrong to them. She only wanted to help people and be kind. Every morning, she would wake up early to fetch water for Mama Kemi, the old woman who lived down the street. She would help Grandpa Ade carry his heavy shopping bags from the market. She would even share her lunch with the younger children who had nothing to eat. The elders adored her. "Lilian, you have a heart of gold," they would say. But the girls her age saw things differently. "She's not even that special," Ada sneered one afternoon as she watched Lilian laughing with some of the younger kids. "Why does everyone love her so much? She must be using juju," another girl, Favor, whispered. "Maybe she's a mermaid, stealing beauty from others." The rumor spread like wildfire. Soon people started calling her names behind her back. Some girls would giggle and whisper when she passed by. Others would make up stories about her. "She looks too perfect," one girl said. "Maybe she's hiding something." "She acts so nice," another added, rolling her eyes. "That's how witches fool people." Lilian tried to ignore them, but deep inside the words hurt. She didn't understand why being kind made people hate her. One evening, as she was walking home, she heard footsteps behind her. When she turned, she saw a group of girls standing in the middle of the road, blocking her way. Their eyes were filled with jealousy. Ada stepped forward, arms crossed. "We need to talk." Lilian swallowed hard. She could feel something bad was about to happen. After her parents' death, Lilian moved into Aunty Norah's house, carrying nothing but a small bag of clothes and the weight of her grief. The house was quiet, too quiet. It was a beautiful home, but it lacked the warmth of her parents' laughter. Aunty Norah tried her best to make Lilian feel comfortable, but something always felt off. At night, Lilian often woke up crying, reaching out for her mother, only to remember she was gone. Aunty Norah would sometimes sit beside her, rubbing her back, whispering, "You're safe here, my child." But the emptiness in Lilian's heart remained. Days turned into weeks, and Lilian did her best to adjust. She helped Aunty Norah with house chores, and continued her habit of running errands for the elderly. But she noticed something strange. Whenever she smiled or laughed, some girls in the neighborhood would glare at her, whispering to one another. One evening, as she returned from the market, she overheard two girls talking behind a tree. "I don't trust that girl," one said. "How can someone be so beautiful? She's not normal. Maybe she's a mermaid. Or a witch," the other replied. Her parents died so suddenly, and she didn't even cry like a normal child. "That's not human." Lilian's heart sank. She wanted to scream that they were wrong, that she missed her parents every second of the day, that she wasn't a witch, that she wasn't a mermaid. But she knew that nothing she said would change their minds. Instead of confronting them, she walked away, pretending she hadn't heard anything. But deep inside, a storm of emotions raged. Why did people think such cruel things about her? That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she promised herself something. She would prove them all wrong. But she had no idea that her life was about to take a turn she never expected. Lilian did everything she could to make Aunty Norah happy. She woke up early to clean the house, cooked whenever Aunty Norah needed help, and never complained, no matter how tired she was. In her heart, she had accepted Aunty Norah as her mother, even though the pain of losing her real parents never truly went away. Aunty Norah, in turn, made sure Lilian never lacked anything. She bought her new clothes, gave her enough food. Whenever people praised Lilian's beauty and good behavior, Aunty Norah would smile proudly. She believed Lilian was special, someone who would bring her good fortune. But not everyone saw things the way Aunty Norah did. One evening, as Lilian returned from running errands, she noticed a group of girls standing near the corner of the street, whispering and giggling. As soon as she walked past them, one of them spoke loudly. "Look at her, pretending to be innocent. We all know she's using charm to control Aunty Norah." Lilian froze. Another girl laughed. "That's why Aunty Norah treats her like a queen. She must have done something to her." No mother can love another person's child like that. Lilian felt a sting in her chest, but she kept walking. She had learned that no matter what she did, some people would always think the worst of her. Later that night, Aunty Norah noticed something was wrong. Lilian wasn't her usual cheerful self. "My dear, what's wrong?" Aunty Norah asked gently. Lilian hesitated, then shook her head. "Nothing, Auntie. I'm just tired." Aunty Norah sighed and pulled Lilian close. "Listen to me, child. People will always talk. But as long as your heart is pure, you have nothing to fear." Lilian nodded, but deep inside, she couldn't shake off the feeling that something bad was coming. The whispers were getting louder. The stares were getting colder. And soon, something would happen that would change everything. Every morning before the sun fully rose, Lilian would quietly slip out of bed. The house was always silent at that hour, with only the distant sounds of birds chirping outside. She liked it that way. It gave her time to think. She grabbed the broom and began sweeping the floor, careful not to make too much noise. Then she mopped every corner of the house, making sure everything was spotless. By the time she finished, the house smelled fresh, and everything was in its proper place. Aunty Norah always praised her hard work. "You have a golden heart, my dear," she would say, smiling warmly. "If every child were like you, the world would be a better place." Lilian always felt happy whenever Aunty Norah said that. But she also knew that no matter how much good she did, there were still people who wished her harm. One morning, as she carried a bucket of water outside to clean the front yard, she noticed a woman standing by the fence. It was Madame Rosaline, one of Aunty Norah's neighbors. The woman's eyes were sharp, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You work too hard for a girl your age," Madame Rosaline said, her voice carrying an edge of suspicion. "A child should not be this perfect. It's not natural." Lilian lowered her gaze and continued scrubbing the steps. "I have seen girls like you before," the woman continued. "Too beautiful, too hardworking, too lucky. You must be hiding something." Lilian clenched her fists, but she didn't say a word. She had learned that silence was the best response to people like Madame Rosaline. But deep inside her heart pounded. Why did people always think she was different? Why couldn't they just accept that she was trying her best? That night, as Lilian lay in bed, she thought about Madame Rosaline's words. Something told her that this was only the beginning. The next morning, Lilian ran errands for Aunty Norah. She held the basket of foodstuffs tightly as she walked home, her heart light from completing Aunty Norah's errand. The market had been crowded, but she was used to it. She had even managed to bargain well and save some money for Aunty Norah. But just as she turned onto the narrow path leading home, she heard laughter. Cruel, mocking laughter. She looked up and saw 3 girls standing by the roadside. She recognized them immediately. Amara, Blessing, and Amanda. They were daughters of wealthy traders in the community, always dressed in the finest clothes. "Do you think you're better than us?" Amara sneered, tossing her braided hair over her shoulder. "Look at her," Blessing scoffed. "Does she really think she's more beautiful than us? Ugly girl like you." Amanda burst into laughter, pointing at Lilian as if she were something funny to look at. Lilian felt her face burn. Why were they like this? What had she ever done to them? Her grip on the basket tightened, but she didn't say a word. She turned away, determined to ignore them. But then Amara stepped forward, blocking her path. "Hey, we're talking to you. Are you deaf?" Lilian swallowed the lump in her throat. Her eyes stung with unshed tears, but she wouldn't cry, not in front of them. "Leave me alone," she mumbled, trying to walk past them. But just as she moved, Blessing grabbed the scarf on her head and yanked it off. Lilian gasped, her hair tumbling down. "See, even your hair is fake beauty," Amanda taunted. "Maybe you are a mermaid like they say." Lilian couldn't hold it in anymore. She spun around and ran. She ran past them, past the houses, past the stares of people on the street. She didn't stop until she reached Aunty Norah's house. She burst through the door, threw the basket on the table, and collapsed on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Aunty Norah noticed that something was wrong. She stood before Lilian. She gently lifted Lilian's chin. Her eyes were red, her cheeks wet with tears. It broke Aunty Norah's heart to see her like this. "My child, don't let their words get to you," she said softly, wiping Lilian's tears with the edge of her wrapper. "People will always talk, but you must never believe the bad things they say about you." Lilian sniffled, her lips trembling. "But why do they hate me, Auntie? I never did anything to them." Aunty Norah's face darkened slightly. She had always known that jealousy could be dangerous, and she had feared this might happen one day. "It's because you shine, my dear," she said, stroking Lilian's hair. "Some people don't like it when others shine brighter than them. Instead of finding their own light, they try to dim yours." Lilian buried her face in Aunty Norah's chest, her small body trembling. She didn't want to shine if it meant being hated. Aunty Norah held her close, pecking her on the forehead. "Promise me something, Lilian. No matter what anyone says, you will never believe that you are anything less than special." Lilian hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Good girl," Aunty Norah whispered. Aunty Norah stood up and walked to the small cupboard by the wall. She opened a wooden box and took out a tiny gold necklace. "This belonged to my mother," she said, holding it up. "She always told me that as long as I wore it, I would never forget who I was. Now I want you to have it." Lilian's eyes widened. "No, Auntie, I can't take this." "You can and you will," Aunty Norah interrupted, fastening it around Lilian's neck. "And every time you feel sad, I want you to hold it and remember this. You are loved, you are special, and no one can take that from you." Lilian touched the necklace, feeling its warmth against her skin. A fresh wave of tears filled her eyes, but this time they were not tears of sadness. Aunty Norah grew so fond of Lilian that people in the community started calling her Mama Lilian. Whether at home, in the market, or even in church, everyone admired the bond between them. Aunty Norah took great care to ensure Lilian lacked nothing, treating her like the daughter she never had. Mr. Benson, Aunty Norah's husband, watched all this in silence. He always seemed kind to Lilian, offering her small gifts and praising her whenever she completed her chores. To everyone else, he was just being a caring father figure. But beneath his friendly smiles, something else lingered, something Lilian was too young to understand. The following weekend, Aunty Norah prepared for a journey that would last 4 days. She packed her bags carefully, making sure everything was in place before leaving. That night, as she and her husband Mr. Benson lay in bed, she turned to him with a gentle plea. "Please, my husband, take good care of Lilian while I'm away," she said. "Make sure she eats well and doesn't feel lonely." Mr. Benson nodded with a small smile. "No problem," he replied. "I'll do as you said." Aunty Norah, satisfied with his response, patted his arm and turned off the bedside lamp, unaware of the thoughts running through her husband's mind. 2 days after Aunty Norah traveled, Mr. Benson sat at the dining table, waiting for Lilian to serve his food. The aroma of the freshly cooked meal filled the air as she carefully placed his plate in front of him. After serving him, Lilian took her own food and was about to head to her room when Mr. Benson called out to her. "Lilian." "Yes, Uncle," she answered, pausing with her plate in hand. "Please get me some salt from the kitchen," he said with a calm voice. Without hesitation, Lilian placed her plate of food on the dining table and hurried to the kitchen. The moment she disappeared, Mr. Benson swiftly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small packet. He sprinkled a powder substance into her food, stirring it lightly to make sure it blended in. His eyes flickered with an unreadable expression before he quickly leaned back in his chair, acting as if nothing had happened. Lilian returned a few seconds later, holding the salt container. "Here's the salt, Uncle," she said, placing it on the table. "Thank you," he replied with a smile. She picked up her plate of food and walked to her room, unaware of what had just been done to her food. That night, Lilian felt an unusual drowsiness take over her body. She had barely finished her meal before sleep pulled her under, deep and heavy. Hours later, the door to her room creaked open. A shadow slipped inside, moving silently toward the bed. Mr. Benson stood over Lilian, watching her as she lay still, her breathing soft and even. He lowered himself onto the edge of the bed, his eyes roaming over her peaceful and beautiful body. The dim glow from the hallway light traced the gentle features of her sleeping form. His fingers twitched as he reached toward her, rubbing her legs as he smiles to himself. Then, as if realizing the danger of his actions, he exhaled and rose to his feet. With one last glance at Lilian, he turned and slipped out of the room, closing the door behind him. The next morning, Lilian struggled to sit up, her body feeling heavy as if she had carried a sack of stones in her sleep. She winced at the sharp pain in her abdomen, confusion clouding her mind. Why did she feel this way? She rubbed her temples, trying to shake off the pounding headache. Her legs felt weak as she swung them over the side of the bed. Something felt wrong. Slowly, she stood up and took a step, but a wave of dizziness hit her, forcing her to grip the bedpost for support. Her breath came in short gasps. Mr. Benson sat at the dining table, his hands wrapped around his cup of tea, staring blankly at the steaming liquid. He hadn't slept all night. His heart thudded with guilt, but he masked it well, forcing himself to act normal. He heard Lilian's door creak open and turned his head slightly. She looked pale, her movements sluggish. For a moment his throat tightened, but he quickly swallowed the feeling down. "Good morning," he said, his voice carefully controlled. Lilian opened her mouth to respond but hesitated. Something about his tone made her uneasy. She lowered her eyes and mumbled a weak, "Good morning," before heading to the bathroom. As she walked, she felt a strange dampness between her legs. When she reached the bathroom, she locked the door behind her and leaned against it, her breathing shaky. A deep fear crawled up her spine as she slowly lifted her nightdress. What she saw made her heart drop. Red stains. Her hands trembled as she touched the marks on her skin. Panic gripped her chest. What happened to me? Her mind raced, but no answers came. 3 months later, Aunty Norah's heart pounded in her chest as she watched Lilian break down in tears. The girl was shaking her head violently, refusing to accept what was happening. "Lilian, tell me the truth," Aunty Norah pleaded, her voice filled with concern. She knelt beside the girl, holding her trembling hands. "I have been a woman for years. I know what I am seeing. Your body has changed. You are always feeling tired, and I have seen you throw up in the mornings. Who did this to you?" Lilian sobbed harder, hugging herself as if trying to disappear. "I don't know. I don't know," she kept repeating, her voice breaking. Aunty Norah's heart ached as she watched the girl's distress. This wasn't normal. Something was wrong. "Did someone force you?" she asked gently, brushing Lilian's damp hair from her face. "Lilian, you can trust me. Tell me the truth." Lilian bit her lip so hard it almost bled. The images in her mind were blurry, like a nightmare she couldn't fully remember. She had woken up sore that morning months ago, feeling strange, but she had convinced herself it was nothing. Aunty Norah's eyes were full of worry now. "Lilian, please talk to me." Lilian opened her mouth to speak but then froze. A shadow loomed in the doorway. Mr. Benson stood there, watching them. The week following, Lilian walked aimlessly through the streets, her eyes swollen from crying. She didn't know where she was going. All she knew was that she couldn't stay in Aunty Norah's house any longer. Shame, confusion, and fear wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. The sky was dark, and the cold wind bit at her skin, but she didn't care. Her mind was a storm of unanswered questions. How did this happen? Who did this to me? She clutched her belly, feeling the tiny life growing inside her. Didn't make sense. She had never been with a man. She was only 13. How could she be pregnant? Tears streamed down her face as she stumbled forward. She could hear her mother's laughter in her memories, see her father's proud smile. If they were alive, this wouldn't have happened. She stopped walking, her legs weak. "Daddy, Mummy," she whispered to the night. "Why did you leave me?" No answer came. Just the sound of distant cars and the rustling of tree leaves. Lilian felt alone in the world. A wave of dizziness hit her, and she grabbed onto a pole for support. She had nowhere to go. No family. No home. Suddenly, a voice came from behind her. Lilian! She turned sharply, fear gripping her heart. A tall woman stood a few feet away, looking at her with concern. I hope you enjoyed the part 1 of the story which you have just watched. If so, what are the lessons you can craft from the story? Let's discuss them in the comment section. Please do like my video, share to as many people as possible. Please kindly subscribe to support my channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell to keep you updated when I upload the part 2. Thank you for watching my video. Until we meet again, keep watching and stay connected. Bye for now.